Hello and welcome to 7 Days of Yoga. I'm Laura and today marks day 2 of your journey, which is all about building a strong foundation for your practice. We'll start in a seated position, our Suasana. You could always stay kneeling like this as well, but I like to start in Suasana, cross-legged pose, and I like to raise the hips a little bit. You can do this as well with blankets, pillows, cushions, whatever works for you, just to raise the hips a little bit. So we'll meet in our seated pose, taking a moment to just find that stillness, maybe softening the gaze, coming back to the breath, the gentle awareness of the inhale and the exhale. Finding that nice lift through the hips and up through the spine, out the crown of the head, as you find length in the body. Thanking yourself for continuing on this journey and coming back to build on your foundations. A gentle inhale in and exhale out. You can flutter the eyes open or keep the gaze soft, whatever works for you today. We'll take some rounds of CatCow first, seated, to welcome that breath back into our bodies. So, beginning with our exhale, take the arms out and push away. Feel like you're pushing that breath out as you round the back. And then inhale, invite that breath inwards, opening up. And exhale, pushing away. Broadening across the back. Then inhale, opening up, the chest pulls forward. And last time, exhale, pushing away. Then inhale. And coming back to neutral. Now, with this being a focus on our foundations and finding a firm stance in our poses, I quite like to begin this by doing a little exercise of lacing our toes and finding the awareness back in our feet. So we spend so much time in shoes now that quite often our feet can become a little bit lazy, perhaps. We don't quite know how to find the balance in them. So inviting that awareness back into them can be quite nice. So we can begin by lacing them. Now find whatever works for you in this. If it's accessible for you, you can pick the foot up and cradle it, or maybe you just have one foot out, we reach forward to it, whatever works for you for this today. So maybe bringing one leg crossed over, taking the hand and lacing it in between each toe. You can use the other hand to help. See where you can find this today. And have a play with this. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable. If it is, then just ease off. You can always just grab the whole toes all together instead of lacing them. So starting here, maybe give them a little squeeze, a little massage for the toes and the ball of the foot. Maybe begin to draw some little circles with the feet. Finding a gentle awareness, a different movement between. You can wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes together, and you give them a little squeeze. And draw little circles with the ankle. You can find movements that work for you today. And then releasing that lace, and taking the foot back. And then crossing the other foot up and over, or however it's accessible to reach your foot today. Taking the hand. Again, you could just grab the toes like this, and you can always just pull them back and forth, or maybe you want to go for a little lace. Again, you can use the other hand to help you find that lace in your toes, giving them some nice space. We spend so much time in shoes and they can really crush the toes together, so it's nice to give them an opportunity to spread out. You're drawing those circles, putting the toes back and forth, giving them a little wiggle. I'm even finding when doing this foot now kind of wants to have a wiggle too. You can maybe notice if this foot feels different to the other one. Drawing circles, squeezing them together, and releasing, putting the feet back out. See if they feel any different. Maybe give them a little wiggle, drawing some circles with the feet. Point and flex them. Just waking them up for your practice. Lovely. And we can remove any props we're using for our seat as we come down to our mat, ready for a tabletop together first. So coming down into all fours, finding the center of your mat, pressing the hands firmly underneath, waking the hands up a little bit here too. Having them stacked nicely under the shoulders, the knees sit underneath the hips. The toes can stay flat on the mat like this or tucked. Maybe you might want to tuck them this time. It's a little bit something different. Wake the toes up a bit. Just pressing those hands firmly in. Maybe giving the fingers a bit of a claw in the mat as you do this. Feeling the difference. Wiggle them around. Pressing firmly in. Finding that strong foundation, that connection to the earth and the mat. Pressing down with the knees, down with either the backs of the feet or the toes. Finding that length and that strength in this stance. And always coming back to the breath. We're going to come down first of all into a nice little baby cobra. So, as we begin to lower, maybe just finding some space. I like to shift the feet back a little bit first for myself, finding a little bit of length here. As you begin to lower the body, the chest comes down slowly, as gentle as you can, keeping the elbows tucked into the side body. You come down onto your mat, lowering down. You can untuck the toes so the backs of the feet are on the mat. And keeping your hands here to the side as you begin to draw the elbows into the side body and inhale, lift the chest up gently. Pressing the thighs down, the hips down, the backs of the feet down. And exhale to soften. And once more, see if we can lift up a little bit more in our cobra. Keeping that strong stance, pressing firmly into the hands, pressing down with the thighs and the backs of the feet as you inhale to lift and feel like you're pulling the chest forward. And coming up. Lifting, pressing firmly down into the mat. And exhaling to soften back down. Well done. We'll come back up into our tabletop. So beginning to press up with the hands, lifting the body up. You can take this slowly. You lift back into your tabletop. Finding that nice strong foundation here again. Then we'll come forward into our first down dog. Or rather, I should say, I like to press my hands forward for my own down dog. You can find what works for you to find a little bit of length here. So they're just a bit ahead, tucking the toes underneath. And then as we begin to draw the knees up and press the hips away, beginning to find length across the body. The knees can stay bent. You do not have to straighten them or lower the feet at all. You can keep them nice and bent. Keep the heels raised. Pressing away from the mat, feeling that connection to the earth. Our nice strong foundations, the hands pressing in. Very active here. The feet pressing down. Lifting the hips up and away. Coming back to the breath. And then we'll begin to walk the feet up to the front of the mat. Coming into your Tadasana, your mountain pose. So as we're bent forward like this, We'll press firmly with our feet and inhale. Begin to draw up. Feeling a nice big bend in the knees here. Do not have to be straight. Curling the back up. Slowly rounding it up. The head is the last thing to come up. As you reach up and up and up. Find your stance here. And here's where you can really begin to explore with your feet as well in your standing posture here, your Tadasana mountain pose. Pressing those feet firmly in. See if you can feel that awakening within the toes. Pressing down into each corner of the foot. And as you press strongly down into those feet, and you draw that energy back up through the body. Feel that length coming all the way up through the legs, up through the hips, through the spine, the shoulder blades melting down the back, drawing up through the neck, the crown of the head. And with this strong stance, begin to shift the weight into the left foot as you peel the right foot up, ready to take it back for our high lunge. Peeling that right foot up and step it behind you here. The foot can rest down or you can keep the toes curled up and play with the stance here, what works for you today. Finding a nice strong posture. And keeping that scissor-like energy for squaring the hips. So imagine each foot is like a blade on the scissors and they come together, drawing the hips square. The left hip crease goes back, the right forward. Maybe the hands come to center, maybe up overhead. Inhaling tall. And then exhaling, coming back to our stance here, our standing pose Tadasana. Resetting our foundations here, pressing the feet down. Repeating on the opposite side. So beginning to shift the weight over into that right foot. As the left foot begins to peel up. And then taking that step behind you. You can do this in a few steps, does not have to be one clean movement. You can play around, find the stance that works for you. Maybe you need to lengthen the stance or bring it in. Find what works. You begin to drop the hips down. Straightening out that back left leg. Maybe a gentle bend if it needs it. Coming up on the toes. The foot does not have to go flat. Pressing strongly into our feet, drawing the hips square. Nice back to the center. Feeling strong and tall. Rooting down into the earth. Maybe the hands come to prayer in the center. Maybe up overhead. You can even shift the gaze up a little if that feels accessible to you. Inhale, maybe reaching back. And then exhaling. Back to center in our Tadasana. Feeling the strong roots sending down into the earth. So you inhale tall. And exhale to start to roll back down into our forward fold, our Uttanasana. The head rolls down, nice big bend in the legs. As the hands come down to the mat. Begin to step the feet back, dropping the knees down. As we come down into a child's pose. Taking the toes together, the knees nice and wide, allowing space for the body to just drop down. Soften down here. Even in child's pose, we can feel our foundation still. The connection to the mat, the hands pressing in. the forehead resting on the mat, or maybe it's on a pillow or a brick. Connection of our knees, our feet, our shins to the mat, pressing down. Always coming back to the breath. And padding the hands back up. Preparing for our Shavasana to close our practice together. So finding the Shavasana that works for you today. Maybe you have a blanket underneath the head, pillows, cushions, bolsters under the knees to help the back. Maybe a blanket to cover you. Find the Shavasana that works for you today. Hands can rest on the body or out to the sides. Allowing the body to soften as the gaze softens and closes. Tension across the face melts away. The body surrenders to the earth beneath. Gently becoming aware of your breath. The inhale and the exhale. And remember to give thanks to yourself for coming back to this practice and continuing your journey. I look forward to seeing you again. Inhale in and exhale out.